Hi, everybody. Editing Aaron here. Just wanted to let you all know before we get into today's episode, Tony, Amy, and myself are really big fans of transparency and accountability when it comes to this project. And it has come to our attention that the composer of our podcast opening fanfare and theme song has had multiple disturbing allegations come forward about them. And they also had a episode on this podcast as well. You will notice that that episode has been removed. And though we cannot retroactively go back and change the theme music on other episodes, we will not be using the theme moving forward. And we don't have anything new for today's podcast. It's NABBA week. We're not able to get to that just yet. We will be seeking a new theme in the future, and we'll let you know about that process. But overall, we just wanted to be transparent. We appreciate your understanding as we take this step. We just remain committed to fostering an extremely inclusive community within the brass band world. Thank you for your support and your understanding, and let's get on with the episode. So this computer. Howdy, hey, y'all.
Hey, yo.
So how's NABBA prep going?
So long. Oh, man. There's a lot to talk about, isn't there?
Yeah. There sure is.
Sure is.
We started our 2 weeks last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun because I like my bandmates, so I get to hang out with my friends.
We lost 2 rehearsals to snow in North Carolina.
That's unexpected.
The snow, it seemed like it always happened on the Wednesday that they rehearse. So that, so a startup band that's going to their first NABBA, it's challenging. The victory is going to be going up there, making it to Fort Wayne and actually performing there. I think we're going to make it. It's going to be a great experience, but boy, it's got its challenges. I'm sure that Aaron remembers his first year struggles.
Man, thankfully, my first year struggles were also kind of NABBA's first year struggles because it was the first time in a new location.
COVID, coming out of COVID.
Yeah, we were coming. So everybody was kind of fresh. Like we were all, everybody was, it was like, there was no like, oh, we're used to this kind of thing. Everybody was kind of figuring it out or whatever. And then I think that was also the year that the newer adjudication system was also released as well. So it was like, thankfully we had that. But yeah, I look back, we have that founding photo like of the band that went, and I look at it and I'm just like looking at all the people who like, oh, they changed their hair. Oh, they got fat. I'm that person. Like I didn't change my hair, obviously. But then also like, who's been here, who's with new bands, like who's moved on somewhere else and stuff. And it's fun. But yeah, the first one, and it's hard, it's so hard to sell this thing to people who haven't done it. And then they go and you don't have to sell it at all. So getting that first one across and being like, let me introduce a drug to your system, and then once they get it, it's like, yeah, you want more, don't you?
You're now their drug dealer.
You really are. How's prep going on your end?
Yeah, Amy, how's it going for you?
So with DSB, we had Chris Ward come down from Michigan to work with us a bit. So we had a band camp weekend where we had a bunch of sectionals and rehearsals. That was not this past weekend, but the weekend before that. So we had probably 7 hours, I think 7, 8, somewhere like that, hours of rehearsal that weekend. That was super convenient because it was also a Planets run that 2 of us were doing with the orchestra. So we did 2 hours of orchestra, like 8 hours of brass band, and then played the Planets. So the second day of the rehearsal, I occasionally just, grabbed my music and sat off to the side and listened and wrote in what he said to just kind of try to save my chops. But that was really helpful. It's always nice to bring in a guest artist before NABBA, just to give that outside opinion. Whether it's full on like clinician like Chris Ward is, or just like a local respected band director or something, having that outside opinion, because sometimes I think when we're in a rehearsal cycle, we can be in an echo chamber of musical ideas. And so getting someone else to listen and say, have you thought about doing fill in the blank? And sometimes we're like, oh, that's a wonderful idea, and then we don't write it down. But most of the time we're like, yeah, that's a great idea, and we take it. Um, so yeah, we had that. We're on 2 weeks. We've been on 2 weeks for a bit now because we also have Dublin Festival Brass, which is this upcoming weekend. So we are getting ready for that. So in addition to the NABBA stuff, we're working on fanfare and a slow melody. And so we can get ready for DFOB. And so yeah, we're pretty busy. The youth are pretty busy too. They are this is the first NABBA that any of them will be to. And they're excited, they're nervous. We're playing at DFOB. We're the only youth brass band, so we're number one.
Hey, but when you tell that to donors though, because when you walk away with that banner or whatever, you go, yeah, they don't need to know anything.
They don't need to know. They don't need to know. We won. We're going to win DFOB, and no one else needs to know. But I think it'll be a good test run for them, to go through the contest process of going to the instrument room and the warm up room and going on stage, and not being able to play until, and even the, waiting for the judges to signal that they're ready, and just going through those motions. So they'll do that. And then we have a Dublin bands showcase the following weekend. So it's kind of like a NABBA run through. So we have the Youth Brass Band, Dublin Metro, and Dublin Silver all playing through their NABBA stuff, just to play it for family and friends. It's a free concert. To play it for family and friends, and also it becomes kind of like an informal send off, even though we're not going until the end of that week and stuff. Right. But it's a free way that family and friends can listen. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff going on, and this is the first time that I am taking a band to NABBA. Tony, you convinced me last year, and now I'm cursing you because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. What's going on?
You're very welcome.
even for DFOB, we finished up rehearsal on Sunday, and we're leaving, and I'm in the car and I'm driving home, and not one but two parents get a hold of me to say, Amy, what's the dress for Sunday? And I said, oh, it's the band polo, the black pants and black shoes. And they go, I don't think my child got a polo. I'm like, before rehearsal, no fewer than 5 times, I held up the polo and I said, if you do not have one of these, come up to the front and get your polo.
Yeah, for all Tampa Youth Brass Band concerts, we learned this after year 1. We have 2 large and 2 3XL polos that we just have, and we take to every single concert because they'll fit just about everybody. those will fit just about everybody. Yeah, sir. I wanted to circle back to the whole clinician thing, because I tell you what, we had our first one that we've ever had. And Craig McKenzie came over. So he's at he was at the University of Miami. He's at the University of Miami now. But those of you who don't know, he's the one who led San Francisco from second to last in second section to winning second section, then to winning first section. So the guy's got a good attitude. And we also had Chelsea Gallo, who's she's the resident conductor at the Florida Orchestra. And like both of what you said, like brass band person and then a highly respected conductor in the area. But I tell you what, when Craig just started, I felt that it was like a switch turned on in the band, and it was like, and now it's NABBA time. Like, it was just like all of a sudden the pencils came out. Everybody started paying attention. Everybody was like, oh, you could hear like people, hey, are you going to take a breath there? Or are you going to do this? Like, you could see all that going on. And it was just like, which normally we don't have until like week of. You know, that's where that like really clicks in. And it was like an air like instantly of just like, oh, we're prepping now. Now we're not learning music anymore. Now we're like really getting this. And also he was just a lot of fun and a really nice guy. And that was a fun time. But yeah, man, the value of that, you know, it's worth forcing him to drive over and putting him in my house. I do feel bad. I do feel bad for him and quite embarrassed.
Any good gigs?
Yeah. I feel bad. Well, you know, I feel bad because in Florida is probably one of the only states we call them palmetto bugs, but they're roaches. That's really what they are. And there's just nothing we can do. They're just here. Right. And anywhere else, it's like, oh, you have a roach infested house. For us, it's just like, yeah, it's just what we do. And he literally pulled back the curtain in his room before he went to bed, and just like a fat one, probably like at the time we had a couple ice cold Coca-Colas heading into this. At the time, it seemed like an 8-inch roach. Like, it just seemed huge. And he comes in, and he's way bigger than me. He comes in, he's like, I can deal with a lot of Florida stuff, but I'm gonna need you to take care of this. And so I grabbed my Birkenstock and Florida man the situation, as we do, and you just did what we could.
Wow, palmetto bugs. That's right. That's the nice way to say roach.
It is. I think I don't know why, but they can fly too down here, so they'll attack.
No,
they fly.
No, thank you.
They'll attack. But yeah, it's been. So my question for everyone is like, do your bands have, since it's like slightly like, Tony, you're in between me and the location more or less, you know. Vaguely, and then it's returned up to the Great White North for you, Amy. So like, do your bands have like organized ways to get there all together, or is it just like, all right, we'll see you Thursday or whatever, you know, kind of a thing?
It's kind of hybrid. You know, the most half the bands getting there on their own car, their own flight, their own travel plans, and then there's some others that are pulling together and getting some 15-passenger vans to travel up together. So it's a little bit of both. No motor coach. That's too expensive.
Yeah, it was with Atlantic, we used to have to drive a pretty decent distance. And so sometimes we would combine with either Princeton or Chesapeake for a coach. And I think I used that a few times, but then after I'd been in the band for a while, it was kind of like, I just flew, and then I would just pay. There was usually a 15-passenger van with college students, and they would get most of their gas money by loading up with some instruments. So we'd pay them, you know, to take our instruments. So I would just pay them some money to take my euphonium. From DSB, we just kind of all convene there. We have an organized way of doing, you know, we all have to, everything for DSB is on a Google sheet. So we put in who we're carpooling with. And so everyone knows who everyone's with, and, you know, so that's nice. I think if, we were talking about going, there's a new festival out in Iowa, the Worst, something.
The Worst Band Festival, not WORST, but WURST.
Yep.
It's not the worst, but the worst.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that like the mascot a hot dog or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were thinking about going to that, but then it would be, I think we would get, you know, a few 15-passenger vans if we were to do that. But this is like 3 hours away tops. It's going to be amazing. If we could just stay there, you know, that'd be great.
It's going to be there for a little while.
I bring it up because I want to complain about my band. We went through all
wait, before you do that, do any of them watch this?
I'm sure they do, and I hope they do. Because you know, of course, the concern was like the cost to get there. Yeah. You know, it's further away, and it's fine. Everybody, you know, the band overwhelmingly said, "Let's go," so we're going. You know, and So we went through all this problems, all this trouble to like organize a cheap way for everybody. But we did say, you know, if you want to fly there, if you want to figure it out yourself, you're more than welcome to. But we're going to rent vans and, you know, take this down to like $150, $200 per person or whatever, you know, we need to do.
Yeah.
And we got the sign up sheet for that back last week on Tuesday. It's me and two other people. So that has become the that's now just the tuba van is really what it is, and we're just me and two of my friends just hiking up the country with a bunch of tubas and a little bit of percussion equipment, and we'll stay in a Motel 6 and maybe have a little sectional for ourselves with percussion and flugelhorn, and we'll have a nice little time in Chattanooga, Tennessee, or wherever the hell we end up in the middle.
Wow.
But yeah, it's always interesting. I mean, I never complain about like I dare not say anything when Craig was here, and because I'm not going to complain when San Francisco's doing what they're doing,
right?
And the Canada band, Rob's crossing over with all of them too. So we all got our problems. So do we have an official count of how many bands are in each section now?
Yeah.
What do we got?
There's 3 bands in the Youth Open, 1 in the Youth First, 1 in the Youth Second. There's 6 bands in the third section, 12 bands in the second section, and I think there's 8 in the championship and 9 in the first, or it's 7 or 8, 7 in the first and 8 in the championship, or that's reversed. It's right around that. There's 41 bands altogether when you count the instant band that's going to be in the open section.
Is that equal or less than last year or any?
It's more. This is the largest NABBA ever.
I feel like we say that every year. I feel like every year has been the largest NABBA. Because kind of is.
When you get one more band than the last year, it makes it the largest.
Which is generally good. It's not losing numbers. I think I put it in one of our group chats. We got a hold of Sunshine's library, and in there's just a bunch of documents, when we finally got a hold of it. And I found, I don't remember, I showed Tony his own picture. I don't remember what the year was from, but it was like early 2000s, and there was like maybe 12 bands total, in the whole thing. It probably wasn't that, I'm exaggerating a little bit.
It was like 15 or something like that.
Yeah, and like for not that long ago, it's like 3 times the amount of groups.
Well, the interesting thing is that the first year they were in Fort Wayne, like, 8 years ago or 7 years ago, whatever. I think there were only maybe 20 bands, and it's double that size now.
I participated in that one.
Yeah, the amount of growth has been ridiculous, but it's not just the growth in numbers too. That's kind of impressive about it. It's the growth in this quality of band playing.
Mm-hmm.
I was judging the Gateway Festival this past weekend, and Fountain City was there, and it was quite possibly the best I've ever heard that band play. They were spectacular. They did I'm not going to talk about that because we want to just keep this on the DL for till after NABBA, but they were just spectacular. You just couldn't even. Chicago.
That's Lee's conducting them now for the first time, right?
Well, he conducted them for
that show.
From what I understand, I couldn't see who was conducting them. But I think they're going to have a guest conductor come in for NABBA. And Chicago was there, and they were so good, just so good.
Great.
Yeah. So and that's just the regional 3 weeks before. I think you'll see the same thing at DFOB next week, and I'm going to Dallas this weekend. So some of those bands down there, are going to be, prepping for this too. It's but even when you get to the championships, you listen to all the championship, all the first section, all the second section bands. They're so good, and they're so much better than they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's really impressive. It's great to see.
Yeah, I get mad about how big this country is. in terms of like I really wish what I wish this particular show was, because this is really kind of like a NABBA pre-show for us in a lot of ways. I really wish we could like have traveled and be able to take like analytics and like see what's happening and be able to do like an around the horn situation and then like really ruffle feathers and like do our predictions for what NABBA is going to be and like who's going to win what and all that sort of thing. But I genuinely, from year in and year out, don't really know, because I live outside of, the band in Orlando. I think the next closest band is, 2 in Georgia, and that's like 9 hours away from me, and that's just the situation we're all in. And like what you heard this weekend or during that contest, Tony, or what you're going to hear like in between now and then, the bands could completely, up things, or like we just never know. It's crazy, and like you can't even take last year into consideration.
Yeah, I mean, there can be quite a bit of turnover from one year to the next. You all right? You all right there?
My camera decided to take on a life of its own. While I was mid sentence, I'm just watching myself zoom out.
It's gonna zoom
in. You get possessed there.
No, I think it'll be interesting to see how San Francisco does. They've hopped up to championship this year. I think it'll be cool to see how they do, because they've just been on this crazy trajectory. It'll be interesting to see if they keep going up. If they try this and find that this is their spot, or if they decide that they need to go back to the first section. But they tend to be like a go big or go home band, because they have so much invested in this. They're coming from so far that they don't really want to play it safe. I think they want to really see how far they can push this. And so they've moved on to championship.
Yeah, that's going to be a fascinating
new director too.
Line.
Yeah, new director as well. Yeah.
First year section, first director. And then, we have there's probably a handful of bands that we haven't seen in a while at the contest.
Yeah, anytime there's a location change, there's a few bands that switch in or out.
There's 3 bands from Canada. 2 that have been there before, Weston and Upper Canada. And then there's a new one, Aurelia brass band from Canada, who's been around for a long time, but I don't believe they've been, if they've been to NABBA, it would have been probably when it was in Canada, several decades ago.
And Weston Silver is interesting too, because they haven't been to a NABBA in a minute, but they did well.
Were in Fort Wayne. They were in Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
They were there.
So like post-COVID, they haven't been, but they did really well. They've done really well in the competitions they've gone to.
Yeah, the US
in that
Open
time
did really well out. Yeah.
Canadian Brass Band Festival, they did very well.
Yeah, they're a fantastic band.
Do you know if they're still first section?
They are first section, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
The first section is going to be a tough one.
I kind of think it always is.
Look, they all are.
Yeah,
the second section is that's the super pig fight, man. There's 12 bands in there, and I like we've been looking at the scores from last year, and like I think like 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th were all within a point of each other, or a point and a half. It was that close. Yeah, so like it's gonna. And
again, to speak to your quality situation, like our first NABBA, we were dead last, but you take our score from last year's NABBA and apply it to that same section from 3 years ago, and we are 3rd place. Like that's how much that's jumped in general. And then Massanutten get the highest score of all of NABBA last year, like in terms of like the number itself.
I don't know.
I know it was super high, like a 95 or something ridiculous like that.
I don't know if it was the highest, but give me a second. I'll look that up real quick.
Is there? All right. So I haven't been since undergrad. Is there anywhere? I think where do you eat there?
In Fort Wayne?
Yeah.
I remember there was an Irish pub somewhere that was really good.
Yeah, there's an Irish pub. Yeah. All right. So the championship section high score was 94.2, first section was 95.95. Second section was
Okay.
94.117. Third section was 84. Yeah, so that was interesting. So yeah, San Francisco had the highest score.
It's wild.
But that was each section is its own, it lives in its own
Yeah,
bubble.
no, it's just interesting to pontificate on. It's not,
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything.
It's been traditional like since we put this scoring system in that the winning bands from each section are in the mid 90s or in the 90s, definitely in the 90s. So if you're not achieving at that level, you're probably not going to win. So you got to boost your levels up there. And what's cool about what over time, as this develops and as the bands get familiar with how to use the adjudication to help them get better, the numbers will help them with that because they'll start to understand what the standard is of like this quality of performance is going to get you this point range. And you'll be able to use that to say, okay, well, we have to do these things to get these levels of achievement to get these points. Admittedly, it's going to take some time to get that. You have to develop judges. The judges have to develop a shared understanding of what quality of performances get what scores, and that can only happen organically over time. So it'll be fascinating to see this journey as it goes through. But we have a spectacular adjudication panel this year. I think it's the best we've had. So we're really looking forward to seeing how this pulls out with the adjudication. We put a lot of effort into making sure that this is the most reliable adjudication platform that the bands can use.
Who are the adjudicators this year?
So we have the championship section. We have it was Steve Sykes, and we weren't able to work that out with him. So we have Chris King, Howard Evans, and Alan Withington. We have in the first section, I may get this section, I'm not really looking at it, but we have Colin Holman, Mark Hoskins, who judged DFOB last year. And we have Margie Antrobus from Norway. We have Ann Crookston. She judged for us last year. Matthew Clark, he's at the University of Kansas. And he's a Canadian, I believe, a euphonium player. He spent some time in the military band in Canada. Did I name off 9? Oh, and Paul Norley. He was here last year as well from Dream Cars, retired. So
Cool.
it's a spectacular panel, and they're all really, really bought in to the philosophy that we're using here. So, I think we should have a good weekend with all of this.
Yeah.
So we're getting, pretty close to wrapping up, and there was something that I think would be fun to go through with everybody.
Yeah.
I wanted to go starting on third section, because I think, right, we're all participating in different sections this year.
I'm doing youth and first. And
Yeah. So we have
You're
1,
in
2,
second, I'm in
3.
third.
Yeah. And then championship section, we can all just kind of speak on. But with our preparations and what we're doing, and, for those of us who might not know, I think it'd be really cool to go through the test piece selections and, what people might expect or maybe listen for. What do you think has been some of the challenges in it? And I'm going to pull up some info on brass band results too, to just kind of see some extra spicy stuff with the things. But I think
I like this.
Yeah, I think I think it's a cool thing, just because, I don't dip my toes into, first section anymore right now. I'm just not in it, kind of a thing. So Tony, what are you, what's the pain in the butt with the Philip Spark, the Malvern Suite?
I don't know how many people are familiar with this. I think it should be, if not, every band should play this at some point. No matter what level the band is, they should play this. It's very accessible. It's a wonderful piece, and there's so much music to be pulled out of it. It's got a lot of the stereotypical stuff that you get from Philip Spark. It's got some of the hemiola syncopations. It's got the long flowing, driving underlying, and then it's got the long flowing melodies. The scoring is very stereotypical Philip Spark. It's just a really delightful piece. And I think that every band in the third section should be able to play it and handle it really quite nicely. It's not really that difficult. There's a couple of tricky spots in it. There's some timing things that you have to deal with in the third movement, and and so a couple of sections where the soloists are really exposed, like with everything. But it's the band loves playing it. I've done it several times over the years, and just think it's a great piece. It's a great choice for this section.
Yeah, so I'm looking at information for it, and the last time it was used as a test piece at all was in 2019 at the SWBA. I have no idea what that abbreviation's for. SWBBA, but it looks like an England thing. If we do have any across the pond listeners, they're going to butcher me for however I just said that. But it hasn't been played in a competition by an American. The last time I am seeing, I just saw it a second ago, the last time it was played by an American band in competition was pretty long ago. And it was the Cincinnati Honors Youth Band in 2006 in the youth first section for NABBA. So it's been a while since it's come across the NABBA stage. But there are a lot, if you like YouTube it or whatever, there's a lot of people playing the thing, just not in competition. Which normally means that, I think like Year of the Dragon's also one of the, not to stay on Spark, but like that's another one of those types of pieces where like performing it, but people get a little nervous to compete with it necessarily because there's so much, intricacies that make it seem harder than it actually is and so much to clean. So I'm curious what that's going to be.
Yeah. Did Cincinnati win with that?
Oh, I scrolled away from it.
Sorry.
No, I was already prepping for the next one. I can get it in a sec. Oh, hold on.
Yeah. Well,
Control find.
Malvern Suite isn't necessarily like, if you think about it as a direct test piece, it's not necessarily a test piece. It's just a really nice piece of music. It's it's programmatic, so like the ending of it, I think if I were going to get nitpicky and criticize any of it, the ending is, not that big brass bandy ending. It's like the tune's going along. How many pieces do we hear like this, where the tune's going along, and then it's like, all right, commission's over. Here's 5 bars, and the tune's over. It's like, I kind of feel like that way a little bit with Crazy 20s. It's like, okay, we got all this great music, and it's like, all right, major chord, we're done.
Don't spoil championship section. Save that for later. To answer your question, they got second that particular year with Greg Mills conducting. And then we go on to my section, Loud, as I've been calling it, Laude. And it's your typical, theme and variation, Salvation Army. If you're born and raised and baptized in the James Kernel, like many of us euphonium players are, you kind of know what you're going to get with this piece. And it's a hymn. It's more or less a hymn tune variations with a good bit of spice, and a few curveballs in there, as he likes to do, musical jokes, I would say, more or less, but it's just really well written. It's really well through composed. You've got a handful of solos, most notably there's a somewhat significant, euphonium solo where it's just the band drops out completely and, it's by itself, which is, scarier in the lower sections.
There's a couple of really nice cornet and flugelhorn, solo cornet and flugelhorn things as well.
And then that's the real problem is there's a lot of communication. There's a really, I would call it a delicate section with your corner chairs, more or less. And intonation's really important, but also just being able to weave in and out of each other and who's important and who's not, even though all of our parts say solo on the, on it. And just how do you work that out? And then it's not as wiggly as we've had in the past in second section, but it definitely has its spots for sure. Really what I think is gonna be the big problem is it is very much, this is what, when we joined brass band, this is the sound of a piece that we all kind of got in for it. So if your cornets sound like trumpets, if your horns, are sound like French horns, like if you're not sounding like a British brass band and you don't have that oomph to you, it will be a little bit of a problem. I think this is where if you don't sound like a characteristic brass band, because we all know there's some pieces where you can still get away with sounding, quote unquote American-y. This is not one of them. If you don't sound like, the New York Staff Band or something like that, it's going to be kind of evident. And this has been a test piece for NABBA before. It was in the honors section, which anybody even know what the equivalent would be?
That would be the first section now.
Okay. But that was also not an eternity ago, but I was 5 years old. It was in 1994. So it was 30 years ago. But it has been used as an own choice piece in the second section by Fillmore Philharmonic Brass. That got them a second place. It's been used actually in NABBA a lot, but actually NABBA is the only place as far as brass band results is concerned, NABBA is the only place to ever use it as the contest piece, as the choice, as the test piece. It's the last time it was played in contest, as far as we know, was at the Swedish National Championships by the Emanuel Brass Stockholm, and they got fourth place on that.
That's interesting. It's a shame that nobody else has used it as a test piece, because it is absolutely great music to play. It's got everything you could possibly want from a contest piece. It's got, brilliant solo writing, great writing underneath of it. Big, huge brass moments, very exciting, delicate playing, rhythmic ensemble, technique that you got to put into it. It's accessible. I don't think you could listen to it the first time and really enjoy it. And if you had to listen to it 12 times, I think you'd enjoy it every single time, because it's just really nice to listen to. So yeah, I hope some other people will pick it up.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going with it.
It should be done.
It seems like a brass band piece that you can really cut your teeth on. Like if your ensemble really wants to know what it is we do, it's got the fanfares, it's got the chorales, it's got the multi-layer. Like it really is like a great example of like, this is what the brass band ensemble does. If you want to do it, and it's also really well scored. I mean, nobody does anything stupid. Yeah, and that's like his thing. James Curnow. I don't know anybody else who writes. I'm sure people will find stuff and screenshot it and send it to me, but like his ergonomic writing, especially if you look at his like band, like wind band, like 0.5, pieces or whatever, that's still really good music to listen to, but is accessible and ergonomic. But well, for the next piece, The Ghost of Industry by Lucy Pankers, I don't think I need to bother looking this up, do I? Because I don't think it's been performed in competition.
It has not been performed in competition. It's only been performed once at the Royal Northern Festival of Music.
And as of recording this, which is St. Paddy's Day, hello, and happy St. Paddy's Day. But that was what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that?
No, it was 2 months ago almost.
Oh, my knees. Okay, that's fine. How is it that January was the longest month ever, and then February?
And then February just went.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
But yeah, but all that to be said is with not even a full half of a year between its premiere and being done at NABBA, which I think is commendable on NABBA's half to do that and trust Lucy with that. But what are you discovering, Amy, with this piece?
Yeah, it's a fascinating piece. I think honestly, we played through it the first time, and there were mumblings among the band. Is this hard enough? I don't know if this is hard enough. And then we started rehearsing it, and then we're still working things out now. it's just that if you look at your own part, it doesn't look hard. It doesn't. But Lucy is known for these tricks, these effects that are metric modulations that are different subdivisions all interacting together. Um, and she's highly programmatic in this. There's bird calls in the cornets, and you can hear the creak of the steel and the opening of the piece, and it's just it's so it's a full band piece, and it's a piece that I think really exemplifies that talk of you learn your part, and then you have to go to band and you work it out amongst each other. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like, as I said, the my part is not super difficult. There are two technical spots that, I've had to really work up. But other than that, we can all look at our parts, and it doesn't look like a typical first section test piece where we have to do all this noodling stuff, and it's difficult in its interactions, really. How our part interacts with everything else.
Yeah, it's just a different type of difficulty.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I'm most excited about is that it's got a high potential for artistry.
Yeah.
Like artistry is going to be the thing that separates bands on this. If it's not going to be the technique, then at least the artistry will be there, and separate everything. I'll also recommend to everybody that's listening, all 7 of you, that if you're going to go and listen to this piece at NABBA, do not do it without watching Amy's video recording interview with Lucy. It's about an hour long,
which I'll put in the description.
Yeah, please do. It is a deep dive into everything you need to know about this piece, and after you watch that, you will definitely understand what this is, and I think you'll enjoy it a lot more because of that. So
yeah, it's
go watch Amy's video. It's great.
There are times in the bleach packing section, there are bleach packers who they would use extremely hazardous chemicals mixed together that to produce their product. And it was a good paying job, but the people who took this job back in the day knew that their life was limited. If you take the job, you get more money for your family, but you're pretty much going to die. And so this section is honoring the bleach packers who would dress up in these, I think they were paper outfits, because they would last longer, I guess, than traditional fabric. Because the chemicals would peel away the fabric. And they had to breathe through like several layers of fabric or something like that. And if they breathed in through their mouth while they were working, or their nose, if they breathed in without protection, they'd be off the job for 2 to 3 days. And Lucy talked about how when these guys would go to the bar after work, like everyone would clear a spot for them to sit down. And so there's like a repetitive figure that keeps, going through that section. And we've decided that it's them like walking through town, and I think it's interesting that sometimes that repetitive 8th note figure is also the notes of the emergency, the ambulance. So I thought that was really interesting. And there were times that we were going through that section and we'd kind of stop and we're like, wow, this is heavy. This is really emotional stuff. So it seems like it's sometimes quite simple, but you have to play everything just perfectly to make everything line up and convey the message. So I think, excuse me, I think that this is going to come down to kind of interpretation and as you said, artistry. I really love playing a new piece because so frequently, to be honest. Bands go and they listen to previous performances of a piece, and you're like, okay, well, Graham Thorpe did it this way, Corey did it this way, and maybe we should we do it whatever band did it. But that's not really possible with this one. So we all have to make our own musical decisions and go with them and sell this piece. So I think it'll be really interesting to see different styles, especially with the cool percussion effects. Like, how do bands take that and perform that?
Yeah, it's super exciting. I can't wait for that to actually come to life. It's been years since we started this. So
Yeah.
it's 3
And
weeks
she's going to
away.
be there.
Yeah, Lucy's going to be there. I'm really excited to actually meet her in person.
Yeah, so
and
for
this
those
for
of you
this
who
long
don't have
project to
a
come to life. Yeah. Go ahead, Aaron, sorry.
No, you're fine. For those of you who don't have a WOB Play account, so you can watch what happened over in Manchester, first section starts at 1:15 on Friday, so you know where to be. And it's so exciting that we're very excited in the second section to be able to play in the big hall for both tunes. Which is one of my favorite halls I've ever played in. It's just pretty. But for time, let's go on championship section. Crazy 20s. Let me go through the information since none of us are particularly in this section and we can pontificate beyond. Let me get the information first. So as a contest test piece, this is very interesting. Brass Band Results already has that the North American Championships are using it this year. They have it already written out for that. But no one... we don't know yet. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Yeah, right.
It has not been used in contests before. As the test piece, it has been used as the own choice, but only twice. In 2022, French National Brass Bands, the honors division, it was used by the Paris Brass Band. I think that's Bastian's band. But they got second with it.
They commissioned it.
Okay. And then the Scottish Open Atlantic played it and got third with it in 2024.
Yeah. Well,
November, but
right.
But that's the only times this piece has been played. And then just because while Amy was talking about her
competition.
thing. In competition. Yeah, of course. Yeah, in competition.
Because JMU's performed it and Fountain City's performed it, and there may have been some others that have actually played it in public. But it's very new. It's very new.
And for those of you who are like me and like to watch championship section with a perusal score, which doesn't exist for us, so we just have to buy the whole score. Oddly enough, Sheet Music Plus does carry it. So you do not have to buy it from like Edinburgh or London or something like that and get it shipped over here. Now, is that probably what Sheet Music Plus is doing? Probably. But we can get it in, you can get it in here, but order it soon because it still has to get over here. What do we know about the piece other than that information?
Well, it's the reason that I really think it's exciting is because it's new, and I like getting new music. I like getting old music, like having a mix of all of it. And I think that we have an American composer, we have a female composer, we have a commission that's brand new music. We have a brand new work. We have some old music. We have a young and up and coming composer, Jared McCuney, in the youth first section. So, actually we have two female composers this year. The youth championship section is doing the Bermuda Triangle, and I won't even try to pronounce her name. But it's a wonderful piece, and then Lucy's piece. But this one, but Tyree Delurel is part of his series of all the music that he's doing with fraternity and all that. So you can definitely hear his style in this, but it's very jazz influenced, which I thought was very appropriate for an American contest to have a jazz influenced piece.
Well, there's a lot of which doesn't happen a lot in championship section music, but there's a lot of drum set stuff involved in it.
Yeah, there is drum set in it, of course. And I think that it'll be interesting to see how the bands approach all of the stylistic things that are in it, with their, because most of the bands have people who are expert jazz musicians, in there. So I think that it's going to get a really, really good, and showing of wow, this is what this piece really could possibly do. It's fun. It's a really fun piece. I don't know if you've been able to listen to it yet, but it's
Yeah, I mean, Hal Leonard has Paris playing it on there with a little bit of a perusal score with the normal blocks or whatever. But you can kind of see, and what sticks out to me just on like a perusal and the couple of times that I've watched it is there's licks and everybody has it. It's not one of those pieces where like you can let your tenor horn section hide, for instance, or your back row hide or something. Like it trades. There's licks, and it goes throughout the entire band, including your marimba player. I mean, the marimba player right off the rip, like right.
Yeah.
It's not one of those ones where I think you can put your bell kit right behind your soprano player and hide bad playing. Like, I don't think you're going to be able to do it with that.
There's a big vibraphone solo in it.
Yeah,
there's some good percussion writing for it.
I think honestly, like this is one of the first times that I think when I listen to it, the percussion is the first thing that sticks out to me among other things. I feel like with brass band, a lot of times we don't. Though the parts can be quite difficult, it's not the first ear catching thing, but like right off the rip, it's quite important.
Yeah, it's probably not the hardest piece. Like the last couple of years, the championship section's just been bashed in the difficulty category. Other lives and remember I call it Remember the Titans, but Titans Progress.
Yeah,
I can't stop and remember the Titans. And the year before that, the and From the Darkness, the Paul Levitt Cooper commission that we did. Those pieces were hard.
I mean, just look at
manageable. Yeah.
For instance, just last year, Other Lives, just the first recording that pops up on YouTube is about 22 minutes long. That might have clapping and stuff like that, but then
that'll also that sounds like one of the versions that has they do like a 2-minute talking with the conductor or something. And
yeah, but the shortest thing I'm seeing is like 19, 19
it's about
minutes.
18, 19 minutes.
But still, Crazy 20s on the Hal Leonard YouTube is not 10 minutes. Yeah, it's close. It's 9.5, but it's, and so a lot of good shoved into 10, which a lot of times is scarier because I feel like when you're in that situation, you don't pace yourself really well. And so you can blow a tire. I mean, by that, I mean, your upper lip, as you're going. So it's going to be exciting. And, I think the things, it's always exciting going to a new location. There's always going to be, shakeups or problems or things like that. But new bands coming back. I'm really excited to hang out with my Canadian friends and eat ketchup chips and that sort of a thing. And and maybe see some bands we haven't seen before or seen in a while, and have some bands, have some people see my band and that might not have prior to, and it's going to be a good time. We have way more than enough to wrap. But that's a lot of fun. So I'm just going to end it. Bye, you all. Leave. Flee.
Okay.